to the first Flutter video. So I have been using AI for past, I think, year or something, and I recently noticed that I become very dumb. Like I just trained my brain. I cannot think anymore properly. I cannot even memorize things. Like every time when I develop, like my brain just refuses to memorize things. So to build up, bring back better my programming brain, I decided to learn something new, and I picked Flutter because I'm a front-end developer. Disclaimer: I never used for Blizzard, never worked for Blizzard or Netflix or whatever. So yeah, I decided to learn Flutter just to learn something new and to reinforce my learning process. I decided to start making videos just to memorize things better. I hope it will help, and I hope it will help to whoever watches this video. So what are we going to build today? We're going to build this segmented control widget, like when you can select stuff and you have this like little background which slides back and forth and take the width of the selected item. So Flutter already has the segmented control widget. So let's go Flutter Cupertino widgets and see segmented control. But there is a problem with this default segmented control. It's fixed width, so you cannot go off screen, so it's not scrollable because they handle the gestures differently. So if you hold and scroll, not hold, hold and move your finger around this stuff, you see, you cannot scroll it. So, but it's not very common use case. Like if you want to build this segmented control, let me show you what we are building today. So we're going to build this stuff. So sometimes you have list of filters if you build your app or whatever you want to do, like sections or just name it, like you want it to be scrollable. So that will be my first component to build. So I already built everything off screen, as you can see it over here, and I'm pretty much new with Flutter. I have maybe like I played around with it maybe like for a week or whatever, so I have some understanding, but I'm still a little bit shaky with Dart and Flutter. So sorry, from time to time I will look back on my other screen to see what is going on there. Just bear with me. So let's start by creating just new application. Flutter new, it's going to be segmented controls. I think it's not new, it's create. Fucking hell out. So first of all, let's clean up the main and create our own app. So let's do stateless widget. It's going to be segmented control app like this. Is going to be simple material app because I don't want to bound myself to Cupertino. So it's going to be material app, and I think home has to be placeholder like this. So let's try to run it and see what happens. So first launch obviously is quite slow, so let's wait. Yeah, so here it is. So it's working. So let's create our first screen. It's going to be stateful because we would like to maintain the selection index. So let's go with stateful widget, segmented control example like this. So we're going to need basically one property, selected index, and structure will be quite simple. So we're just going to go with basic scaffold, safe area. As a child, it's going to be column, just to center widget to the screen. So main axis alignment, center, children is going to be only one widget. And to make it scrollable and to give it some background, let's wrap it into the container with color, just simple gray color. From RGB is going to be 255 and then 240, 240, 240. So just nice gray widget. And as a child is going to be single child scroll view because we want to make it scrollable. Scroll direction is going to be horizontal because we want to scroll horizontally, obviously. And the child is going to be our segmented control. But for now, let's just put container and see how it looks like. So we refresh it. Still looks like shit. It's because we don't use our segmented control example. So let's go here and let's see. Okay, seems good so far. Let's just, instead of container, let's add text. Okay, so it's over here. Now let's create our segmented control. It's going to be stateful widget because we're going to use animations to animate the background sliding back and forth and also resizing of the background. So we will need animation controllers, segmented control like this. So our segmented control will accept several properties. So first property is going to be, what is going to be? Shit. Sorry. So first of all, we need to accept the list of children. So final list widget of children. Then we will need currently selected widget. So it's going to be int selected index. Like this. And also we will need the callback when user taps on one of the items. We will need to signal to the parent that user tapped. Value changed, and it's going to be int on selection changed. Okay, now we require all of them. So require this children, require this selection index, and require this on selection changed. So far so good. Let's just render our children here for now. So let's go with row, and children is going to be widget children like this. So now we will import segmented control Dart and use it over here. So we go with segmented control. Children right now is going to be empty array. Let's move it up. Selection index is going to be our selected index. On selected we accept index. Here we do set state and set the selected index as new value here. And as a children, let's do some padding. Let's give it some good paddings. Symmetric vertical is going to be 8 and horizontal let's go with twice more, 16. And as the child of this one supposed to be our text, and we say foo. Let's see, so we have it over here. So we have a background, we have our item. Let's add more items. So let's do final items is going to be array of strings. Let's go with iPhone, iPad, iMac, MacBook, iWatch. What else do they have? AirPods and HomePod, I think. So this one become a little bit big, so let's create another component to display our items. Let's name it item. It will accept final string label. Let's copy our padding stuff here. Here, and text, we just do the label like this, and I think this may be const. Okay, so now as a children we want to render all our items map label into item label like this, and we need to go as to list. Let's see how it looks like. Okay, it's already looks decent, so we can scroll it. We have our items. So now what we need to work on, we need to work on the click handlers and on highlighting the selected item. Whew, here comes the tricky part. So we have our row, and to show the slide in background we would need positioned widget. So it means we need to wrap our row into stack. Let me check my notes. Am I right or not? Oh, I see I added a little bit more padding around it. So let's go with padding. Let's go with 4. It's just to add a little bit more space inside our background. Then as a child we're going to have a stack, because this stack, first item of the stack will be our background, and the second item will be our row. So stack is going to have a children, and here we put our background slide in background, and as a second will be content. So our content is quite straightforward. It's just a row we had before with a little bit twist. So we have children, and as a children we need to render the widgets we are passed, but we need to wrap these children into gesture detector to detect the taps. So we will need widget children. Unfortunately we don't have for each with index like we do have in JavaScript, so we need to use smap, I think. Then go through entities, then map them, then we're going to have entry, then we're going to have final index will be entry key, and child is going to be entry value, like this. So from here we can return our gesture detector. On tap we will need to call our callback, and as a child we need to render our child. So it still complains because we need to use a to list. Let's see how it looks like. I will do a little bit more space over here. So okay, we're still rendering them. Just to, for good measure, let's reload it. So we still render them, so everything is good. Okay, so to render our slide in background it has to be position widget. So let's create the method. It's going to be widget build sliding background, and because our sliding will be animated it has to be animated widget. So return animated build animation builder, sorry, animated builder. Okay, so now a little bit more preparation has to be done. Let me think through. So first of all we will need to create some class properties to handle the animations. So first of all we will need list of global key to, because we don't know the widths of the children until we render them. So after first frame is rendered we need to use the callback to calculate the widgets and position of every child, not widths and position of every child. So we will need the list of global keys to store these positions. So it's going to be keys. Then we will need list of positions of left coordinates of every child. So our sliding background can slide to this one. So it's going to be list of doubles, and it's going to be segment positions. And also we will need list of widths for every child. So list double segment width like this. Okay, so looks good so far. So what we need to do now, we need to calculate all these things first. So if we put our hook to get the next frame inside the build method, it means we will calculate it every time when we render the next frame. That's not what we need. We need to calculate them only once, not only once, but only when children are changed. So I'm not very proficient with Flutter, so if everyone knows that I'm doing wrong, please ping me and I will change it. But the solution I found so far is just to override what was this method name? Did change dependencies. So over here we need to calculate our measure our segments. So let's create this measure segments function. Okay, so now to measure our segments, we need to register first frame hook. So widget binding instance post frame callback. So we don't care about input of this one, but here what we need to do, we need to go through all our children and calculate positions and widths for them. So let's do it. So double. So this will be the position of the first item. It's 0. Everything else calculated from the most left border. So for int I 0. So we go through all our items. We need to get the render box for particular item. And here comes the tricky part. Because we don't go through children directly, we go through gesture detector. It means we need to use the keys on our gesture detector. So key will be our keys at index. It means when we create our widget, we need to create this keys array. So init override init state here, and our keys will be list generate so first will be the lengths, so widget children lengths, and generator function will be global key. So we basically create the global key for every item. We don't care about index. And here it should more or less work. So yeah, it still works. So here now, to be consistent, let's go through the keys lengths. And now when we receive our render box, we need to go through keys at I current context, find render object as render box. Okay, so now we received render box for our gesture detector. and we need to make sure if render box not equals null, and if it not equals null, we need to save the position and width. So let's go segment positions. At I is going to be render box segment position. No, segment position has to be current position because we calculate them separately. So after we set it, we do the current position plus equal render box size width. So, and then we jump to the next one. And width is going to be segment width at I supposed to be render box size width, like this. So in this case, we go through every key which we assigned over here. The lengths of key list will be the same as our widgets list, and for every key, because it was already rendered, we can get the current context, find render object, and then get the sizes of this thing. So now we're going to have an error, I assume, because our keys are just empty array and we directly use the position over here. So as we create keys over here, we also need to create segment positions list, generate widget children lengths, and the lengths, the values will be 0, its initial value, because we did not calculate it yet, and we do the same thing for width. So segment width. Okay, now it looks good. Let me check my notes. Yeah, we're doing great. So now when we on this hook, we can measure our segments already. It's supposed to work, seems like it does. Okay, and just for good measure, let's put the breakpoint over here and make sure our fucking hell. Let's put breakpoint here and make sure we did everything correct. So we check the this and segment width, and we have width of all our items as well as we have this position. So first position will be 0, 0, the next one will be width of the previous one, which seems to be correct. Okay, doing great. So let's remove this one, reload this one. So what we need to do now, we need to render our sliding background. Wait, we still need animations. So now to provide animations to our component, we need to create animation controller, not in the widget, sorry, in our stateful widget here. So late animation controller is going to be our main animation controller. Then we're going to need animation, which will be, so to animate width and position, we need two separate twins for doing it, but we need to connect them to the same controller. So we will create animation as a parent for both those twins. So, and now we can create both our animations as position animation as well as width animation. And inside init state, we need to create our animation controller first. And to use vsync, we need to use mixin. I don't even know what it is. With single ticker provider state mixin. I'm not really a Flutter guy yet, so I just monkey see, monkey do. And duration, we will need our animation duration. So duration will be milliseconds, let's say 400 milliseconds. So this is our main animation controller. So now when we can create our parent animation, will be just curved animation. Parent will be our animation controller, and curve is going to be curves is. Okay, looks good so far. And just for a good measure, I'm not sure that we really need to do it, but it's better to create empty animations for position and width. So let's do position animation. Is going to be simple twin for double value. Begin with 0 and end with 0, and parent is going to be our animation. And we do the same thing for width animation. Complaints for some reason. Animation dynamic. Yeah, we forgot to put generics all over the place. Okay, looks good so far. So we created our animations. We create empty animations because we don't know either position or width in the beginning. So, and now because we create animation controller and we sync it to this, we need to release it on dispose. So let's override dispose. We need animation controller dispose, and then we can go for a super dispose like this. So we created our animations, we dispose them, we calculate the measurement. So now we can create our sliding background over here. So let's see, we have our animation. So our main animation will be like this, and builder will accept context and child like this, and from here we will need to return positioned because it will be inside the stack and we need to position it one way or another. So container will be just a child will be just a simple container to show the background. Width of this container supposed to be animated. So width will be our width animation value. So this will be animated. And for position, left also has to be animated. So we're going to have our position animation value like this. And now for our container, we need to add visuals. So let's go with decoration. A simple box decoration. Let's use our color as color white, and border radius, just to make it a little bit more fancy, border radius circular, and let's go with 8. Okay, looks good so far. So we have this animation, we have the left position, we have the width of it, so I think we can display it. The only problem, we cannot display it on the first frame, because on the first frame we still don't know this. Let's try to do it and see what happens. Yeah, so it's because of the hot reload, but for now seems like everything works. So we still don't see it because we render it on the first frame and we did not run any animation, so our value over here will be 0, reads will be 0, and position will be 0. So it means after we render it, we need to run our animation somehow. Let me wonder what is the better way of doing it. So we have our render box and we have our sliding background, but it's not rendered on the first frame. So it means when we create our measurements, we actually need to run it, but we don't want to do it on every frame. So what we can do, we can use another hook, did update widget. I think that's the right one. So this one, according to documentation, will run every time when we need to update something, when our parent widget updated. So basically when index value changed, when selected index value changed, or initial value changed. So what we need to do, we need to run first of all parent like this. Then if lengths of the children changed, we need to rerun our measurements, because this function will run only on the first time, but this one will run when children length changes. So let's check if widget children length is not equal to old widget children length. We need to rerun our measurements, and let me check the measurements, so we never nullify them, so we also need to reset them. So let's copy paste here. Adepts of clean code will say like you should not copy paste, but it's only 3 lines of code, and like if it's only 2 places where you copy paste it, I think it's good. So now let's see. Next thing we need to do, we need to check selected index. If widget selected index not equals our old widget selected index, we need to run our animations. So first of all, we need to update our local selected index, which we don't have. So let's put it here. Int selected index. It's going to be late int selected index, and on initial state we use our selected widget from selected index from widget, and then if it changes we need to update it. And here we need to run our animation. So here we already have our measurements. So what we can do, we can update our position animation. From, begin. So position has to go from old item to the new item. So for example, it was selected element number 0, and now we need to go to element number 2. So what we need to do, so we start from previous. So segment positions, old widget, selected index, and to the current segment positions, selected index. Okay, and same for widths. Width animation, we do basically the same. So begin will be old widths, so segment widths, old widget, selected index, and on animate animation. Okay, so we recreated our animations, and now we need to actually kickstart the controller. So animation controller, we go forward from 0. Still nothing for some reason. Let's try to debug it. So we have here, when we click selection changed on our main Dart, selection change, selection index change. Let's log it. So we build our background here, everything looks good, and when we click it, it's supposed to work. Let's do So when we click on this, it says it works, but it doesn't. Let's make sure this part works. Okay, this part also works. Let me check my notes. So we have this one with update agent dispose. Yeah, I know where the problem is. It's because we never used. Oh no, we did use. And we measure our widths. So we have this part over here. Let's just make sure this works. And colors, let's go with red. So seems like this animation builder doesn't work. What is going on here? Yeah, it's because height is 0. So if we go top to bottom, yeah, classic. Okay, so now we can use our position animation value, and where's our width animation value? Let's reload it. So if you click on it, boom, it works. So it works fine except the first frame. And the problem, because it doesn't work for the first frame, it's because our first frame is rendered over here. We calculate the widths, but we never update the state. Okay, I think I know where the problem is. So when we build our gesture detector, we have a child, so we don't skip the first, we skip in the first frame. And to avoid it, the content blinking, I think we need to wrap our child into the container, and this container has to mimic our background for the first frame until user clicks one of the items. So this container is supposed to have a decoration, box decoration, and color supposed to be if our segment width at index equals 0, it means we do not calculate our segment width yet. And if this particular item is selected, and we need to create final is selected as select equals index. So if width is 0 but this item is selected, we need to do color white, otherwise we need to do transparent. And this one goes like this. Yep, it works. So, and we also need to mimic the border radius for this one. And let's do white here. So, okay, seems like everything works. So we have our component, we have initial frame. When it's initially rendered, we highlight the currently selected item, and then when we click one of those, we update our selection index. It goes to the parent updates its own state, passes back to this particular child. We have did update widget, we see the selected widget changes, we kickstart the animation. So when you click on this stuff, it goes back and forth. Also change the widths, we can scroll it, boom, and seems like we're done here. Yeah, looks like we are done. Yeah, still lots to learn with Flutter. Looks very interesting. The only thing I don't like, not the only, but one of the things I don't like is the rendering. It's like this endless nested widgets. At some point, they become very crowded. So I was trying to extract some widgets here and there, but then like you have too many widgets. It's a classic React problem with uh, CSS and JS. Like when you create title wrapper, container wrapper, and you have 50 different wrappers just to adjust the styles a little bit. But that's what we have, and that's what we have to live with. But yeah, that's not finished product, so it's just a starting point. So if you build something, you probably would like to pass the animation speed, the colors, and maybe animate the text change when item is selected, but it's up to you. And I think we are done for today. Thanks for watching.